Welcome, welcome. My name is Ilana Brownstein. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the director of new work at Company One Theater in Boston, where our mission is to create community at the intersection of art and social change. Before we get started tonight, I would like to begin by acknowledging that Company One Theater produces work in Boston, which is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts people. As a company, we affirm that it is important to understand and honor the history of the Indigenous land that we occupy, while we also recognize that this acknowledgement is insufficient and doesn't undo the legacies of violence and displacement against Indigenous people. We aim to take steps towards a future of decolonization and reconciliation. So with that, I would like to give you a brief history of the project that you are here to be part of this evening. So we're here to witness and celebrate the birth of a new musical in progress. This project was brought to life through a collaboration between Company One Theater and POW Art Center, which is part of the Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center in partnership with Bunker Hill Community College. Our two organizations have worked together on numerous arts and community programs, like our co-production of Quy Nguyen's play Viet Gone and pop-up events at the Chinatown Gate or at China Pearl, a dim sum restaurant. 2.5 years ago, POW and C1 got together to dream of a way to cultivate and amplify the work of Asian and Asian American artists, while also telling the vibrant story of Boston's Chinatown through the voices of its residents. So the C1 POW Fellowship was born, and we invited Yan and Melissa Li, who are dynamic theater makers, both with deep ties to Boston's Chinatown, to join us on this journey of community-based art making. We held our first public event in February of 2020. So you can guess where this is going. Our joint dreams of on-the-ground research and in-person artist residencies and new play workshops. We probably went through about 9 or 10 iterations of what we were hoping to do. And then we adjusted to meet the demands of COVID. We began to see this flexibility as an asset to the project rather than as a roadblock. And we pivoted our process again, so that our producers, Christina and Alison, who are artists in their own right, who you will shortly meet, so they took the lead on building one-on-one relationships with residents through in-depth interviews and building webs of connection among stories that were told. Melissa and Kit then built a new work from these materials, which is what we're going to see tonight. But first, before we get anywhere close to that, I really want to introduce and throw over to my colleague, Cynthia. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Ilana. Thank you for the introduction and kicking us off. My name is Cynthia Wu. I'm director of POW Art Center. I use she, her pronouns. I'm so thrilled to be with all of you tonight. As Ilana mentioned, this has been a long-term project for us. And one of the last times we hosted an in-person event was the kickoff of this fellowship physically at the center in February 2020. And I just want to give a welcome to those of you who are new to POW Art Center and what we do. We opened in 2017 as a cross-sector partnership between a social service agency, BCNC, and Higher Education Institute, Bunker Hill Community College. And with the support of many Chinatown community organizations and funders such as Bar Foundation and Art Place America, we've really thrived over the past 5 years. You know, it's the opening and the continued activation of the center now, as I mentioned, over 5 years. That's a testament to how everyone involved, including community partners such as the Asian Community Development Corporation, South Cove Community Health Center, to individuals in Chinatown who believe and genuinely support that arts, culture, and creativity are essential parts to being a healthy individual, having healthy families, and healthy community. And I think that's especially important as we've been producing work, or Kit and Melissa and the C1 team alongside community members have been working on this project through a global pandemic. It really tells us how important creativity is. And I think no matter where you're joining us from tonight or whatever your background is, we're all together, even if virtually. And we will experience this new work inspired by Boston Chinatown stories, and we'll celebrate these stories together. And I'm just really so excited and genuinely thankful for everyone involved in this process, from Company One to Kit and Melissa, and all our community members and community partners have been part of this process. And just excited to be here alongside with you.
Thank you, Cynthia. A reminder for all of you watching and all of us making, here we are on Zoom and YouTube and various computers and tablets and other devices, and technology is unpredictable, which is what we've learned over the last 2 years. So we ask for your patience if we encounter any difficulties, which of course includes pets and children who might wander through our backgrounds. So here is the plan for tonight. Melissa and Kit are going to share their work in progress with an assist from associate producer Alison Qu and community producer Christina Chen. And afterwards, Juyeon Kim will lead a wide-ranging conversation about the radical act of community-centered creation in a time of pandemic and anti-Asian racism. Along the way, if you have questions and you're watching our live stream premiere, hello, please drop your questions in the YouTube chat and we will do our best to address them. This event will be captioned in English and Chinese following its initial broadcast. So to follow along with the musical in your own language tonight, we've made PDF versions of the work in progress available to you in Chinese and English. You can see the links in the video description below. And now I am thrilled to introduce you to Melissa Li and Kit Yan, co-creators of a musical inspired by the voices of Boston's Chinatown.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much, Ilana, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Kit Yan. I use they, he, and she pronouns, and I'm one of the writers of today's piece. We are so honored to have worked on this story with Company One, Pao, and this incredible team, and we're so excited to share this work in progress with you today. It actually isn't often that we get to share our work in its early stages with our communities, so we welcome you today into our process. Because it's an early draft, you might notice some placeholders here and there. It's all part of creating a new piece. And it's extra special for us because we're hearing it out loud in its entirety today for the first time. I'm now going to pass the intro over to my brilliant collaborator, Melissa Li.
Thank you, Kit. I'm Melissa Li. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm one of the writers and the composer of today's piece. We're not going to say too much about the piece since you're about to hear it, but it was inspired by my own experiences growing up in Chinatown, Kit's time in Boston, as well as the countless interviews of community members that helped our research and contributed so much to the fabric of Chinatown. Before we begin, I want to thank Company One, especially Ilana, Pao Arts Center, shout out to Cynthia, and extra special thanks to associate producer Alison Qu and community producer Christina Chan, who have been our close collaborators on this journey. After the piece, we look forward to having a wonderful discussion with the team. And now I'd love to introduce the associate producer at Company One, Alison Qu.
Hi, my name is Alison Qu. I use she or they pronouns, and I'm the associate producer and the dramaturg of the piece. At this moment, I truly have nothing else to add to this room full of wonderful, good vibes and energy, except to say that I'm ultra excited tonight to bring people together for this piece of our own city, our very own Chinatown tonight. And I wanted to introduce you to my colleague, our community producer, Christina Chan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christina Chan, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the community producer, and I will also be reading the stage directions tonight and Florence. Kit will be playing Tony. Melissa will be Grandma Wong. Alison will be Ronan. And now we're all going to take a moment to change our names in our boxes to our characters so you can follow along. And now we will begin our play. Scene 1, Parcel 28 building, Grandma Wong's house, morning. Moving day, Grandma Wong, a cisgender Chinese American woman in her 80s, sits alone in a small studio apartment. It looks like a hoarder's house. The walls are stacked to the ceiling with junk. Piles look like they are about to fall over. Grandma is bundled up in thick, traditional, handmade Chinese winter clothes. We can see the cold mist as she breathes. She turns to an altar with a photo of Grandpa Wong, a shot glass of alcohol, a few clementines, a bowl of rice with burnt incense sticks, jujubes, and lucky candies. She lights 2 sticks of incense and bows 9 times. As she does this, a wrecking ball flies by the window and the building rumbles. Ronan, a cisgender Chinese man in his 40s, operates the crane.
Go to hell, Ronan.
Just doing my job, Grandma Wong.
She pours some rice wine for Grandpa, downs the rest of the bottle, then opens the window and throws it at the wrecking ball. Sound of glass smashing and a shout from Ronan. She turns her attention back to the altar.
You would be dead if you knew what was happening. Better that you're gone. If not, you would die twice.
The radiator starts clanging.
This place is a shithole now. When Pinnacle Group bought out this building, you should have seen the other tenants. Packed all their stuff and scattered off like it was the gold rush or something, like they never seen money before. Lo Tun stayed, and a couple of others like Boy Tai and Dai B and his 2 kids. So they stopped fixing the heat, not even on a day like today. It's so cold out, it'll freeze the nuts off a snowman. Assholes won't put in the elevator, won't fix the smoke detectors, nothing.
The wrecking ball swings by again and shakes the building.
Treated us like rats until people sold out. They're all gone now. Not me. I'd rather die here than let them take this away from us. Let the wrecking ball kill me. Better that way, I'll come back and haunt the new tenants. Turn their fancy coffee machines on and off, break their dishwashers, chip their marble. Bring it, Ronan.
A knock at the door. Florence, a cisgender Chinese American woman in her 40s, stands outside Grandma's door with a red plastic bag of food in one hand and a giant shopping bag of blankets in the other. She's in a nicely tailored winter coat. Beside her is Tony, a 17-year-old trans-masculine Chinese American kid, wearing a puffy coat and a backpack. Ma! Open the door! It's freezing!
Go home, Flo.
I have food and blankets and hand warmers for you.
I have food.
The radiator clangs louder. Let me come in and fix that radiator at least.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm just here to drop stuff off, Ma.
I open that door and you're going to snatch me.
We aren't kidnappers. Grandma speaks to Grandpa's altar.
Your daughter. She's big now and she thinks she's smarter than me. She thinks she knows better.
Aren't you hungry? I brought you food from the restaurant.
I'd rather starve than come out.
You are being unreasonable. Let me in.
Unreasonable? I have morals. I'm not a sellout. I'm not running away like you.
Quincy is nice, Ma. It's the new Chinatown.
There's only one Chinatown.
Everyone's moving there. You'll like it.
I knew it. You're here to trick me.
What's trickery about wanting you to have a better life? They're offering $800,000, Ma.
You only care about money.
I care about you. With the money, we can build you a ramp and a room on the ground floor of a beautiful house. You won't have to walk up the stairs anymore. You can have nice things. You can even get that mahjong table that automatically shuffles the tiles for you.
I can save up for that.
Don't you want to be with your family?
Go home.
You can't live here forever with all your junk.
Junk? These are memories.
If you don't open that door, I'm going to break it down. Florence pounds on the door. Tony peels Florence away and puts his ear to the door. He knocks gently.
Hi, Grandma. It's Tony. Can you let me in?
It's not going to work. She's too stubborn.
Grandma, I just want to take a look at your radiator. I'm not going to try to make you leave. I promise. Don't you trust me, Grandma?
I trust you, but not your mom.
Okay, she's leaving.
Tony.
I'm just going to come in and drop off some stuff and fix your radiator. I miss you. I want to make sure you're okay.
When I hear your mom's footsteps go down the stairs, I'll open the door. But only for you, Tony.
Tony looks at Florence. She sucks her teeth and drops all the supplies on the floor. She is cutting my life short with all this. I'll come back in 1 hour. She huffs down the stairs.
She's gone, Grandma.
Grandma puts her ear to the door. She slowly opens it. Tony picks all the supplies up and goes in.
Hey, Grandma.
He hugs her.
You got fatter. That's good.
Yep.
Did you forget someone?
Oh,
Tony goes to the altar and bows.
Just because you never met him doesn't mean he doesn't see and hear everything.
hi, Grandpa. Hope you're staying warm.
It's cold as hell. He's dead, but he's not dumb. And you better apologize for all that racket your mom was making in the hall.
Sorry, Grandpa.
Tony puts all the blankets and supplies down. He goes to a table and starts unpacking the food.
This is from your ma's new restaurant?
Yep, beef chow fun, gai lan, and your favorite, scallion pancake.
Grandma Wong looks at the food with disgust.
These soggy little pot holders, people will eat anything nowadays.
It's not that bad, Grandma.
Ging Feng Yun. It used to be at the corner of Neelan. Now they had the best scallion pancake.
I said they had a cockroach problem.
1 or 2 cockroaches never hurt anyone.
Grandma takes the food and tosses it out the window.
Grandma!
Hey!
Lunchtime, Ronan.
What are you going to eat?
Pork bone soup. Boiling for 8 hours already. Let me get you a bowl.
No thanks, Grandma. Okay.
She disappears into the kitchen and emerges with a hot bowl of soup.
Sit down.
He looks around, but there's nowhere to sit.
Move that stack of books. There's a little folding stool there.
Tony moves the books and unfolds the stool. Grandma puts down the soup on a crowded table filled with a big tub of empty thread spools. She moves some of the tubs away.
You have a lot of stuff, Grandma.
It's not stuff. This is history.
Tony skeptically eyes a basket with a broken handle and a big hole in it.
Drink your soup.
Tony does.
How's school? How's school?
Good. I know what I want to major in next year.
Medicine or law?
Asian studies.
What?
I want to study history, cultures, societies.
Waste of money.
It's important.
You're Asian. What is there to study? Use your eyes. Look around. Everything you need to know is already here.
The radiator starts clanging again. Tony gets up and examines it.
How long has it been like this?
I don't remember.
Let me take a look. You have a wrench?
Yeah, you don't need a wrench.
I just need to...
I know what's wrong with it. I'm the one who's been living here. The floorboards are old. The radiator is sinking. See? We just have to lift it and put something under it so it can drain.
Oh, that's it? How about I lift it for you and you wedge it with the...
Tony looks around for something to wedge the radiator. He knocks over a pile of calendar. He picks them up.
How about this?
No, we can't use that. I need those. Yeah, put that down. I'll find something.
Tony puts them down and picks one up.
Grandma, maybe you should consider getting rid of some stuff. It's kind of a fire hazard in here. You really need all these calendars? This one's from 1983.
That is important.
She pulls the calendar out of his hand and flips to a page.
See? Sunday, May 23rd, Keiying Wei Chinese Golden Age Center concert. That day, my ma, your great-grandma, was singing opera with the other seniors. She loved performing and being the center of attention, so she was always right in front of the mic. She loved to show off. So she sang. Yep, yip, hang down hai. She sang so beautifully and was so loud. Yan ga man chung san e. And then she looked up and realized everyone else was singing a different song. The whole room just burst out laughing. We were on the floor.
You didn't take a video?
We didn't have iPhones back then. This is how we remember.
She puts the calendar down. Tony grabs an old paintbrush from another pile.
What about this? Can we toss it? You don't even paint.
Grandma Wong takes the brush from him.
This paintbrush painted the very first stroke of the famous Chinatown Unity Community mural on 38 Oak Street. It's gone now, but look.
She pulls out a postcard of the mural.
Wow, this is beautiful.
Things are only beautiful if you remember them.
Tony bumps into another pile. A few wooden sticks fall out.
Come on, Grandma, this is definitely trash.
Trash? That is not trash. You never got to meet your grandpa, but let me tell you, when he was young, he was strong and handsome and part of the lion dancers. They'd go through all the streets of Chinatown, blessing every single business and wishing them prosperity.
Was he the head or the butt?
Grandma strikes Tony's head with the stick.
Ow!
He was the drummer. He played until his hands were chapped and sore. He said he couldn't feel the cold when he was playing. He was so stubborn, but eventually I got him to wear gloves in the cold. He just loved that troupe so much.
That's so cool, Grandma. I wish I knew him.
Tony takes the sticks and taps a rhythm on a pile of books.
What do you think?
Not bad.
Tony puts the sticks back. He stubs his toe on a loose brick.
Ow, what's this brick doing here?
You okay?
We should use that for the wedge. It's the perfect height.
No, don't touch that.
It's just a brick.
Everything has a story. This brick is from the community oven over at Oliver Place, Ping On Alley, where the first Chinese people settled in Boston in the 1800s. In enormous canvas tents in the middle of the block, a group of men, they settled in with everything they owned. The tents turned into buildings and their families filled the lots. And before they even realized, well, this became their home. And a large communal oven sat in the middle of the street. Brick by brick, we built this alley with all we carried from miles away. Brick by brick, we came together, we raised it from the ground. Brick by brick, we built our Chinatown. Their children made a better life, they learned all of the rules. They opened several restaurants and stores and laundromats. They started learning English and attended grammar schools, becoming journalists and businessmen and even diplomats. And the large communal oven sat in the middle of the street. Brick by brick, we built this city. It wasn't easy, but still we stayed. Brick by brick, we came together and shaped it from the ground. Brick by
love with food, we cook because we care. You'll find that it's our beating heart that lives inside a wok. From pea pod stems to pork fried rice and tasks you about to share. We gathered round the burning coals and let our dishes talk. And through the years they beat us down and tried to keep us out. But I knew the power that we had even as a little girl. We persevered, we spoke out loud, we proudly stood our ground. 'Cause everything behind that gate is our gift to the world and the large communal love and state until 1953. Brick by brick, we built this country, we made our money, we found a way. Brick by brick, we came together, we carved it from the ground. Brick by brick, we built our Chinatown.
Oh, this place is like a museum.
It is, isn't it?
You know, you can take everything with you to Quincy, right?
The radiator starts clanging again.
We still need to find something to put under there. What about that thing?
Tony points to a metal piece laying near some boxes.
You think everything is trash. Turn it over.
Is it
Tony
like
turns it over in his hand.
it's like a toy or something? There's Chinese on it.
World Journal.
The newspaper?
It's a piece from the printing press before computers. Some dummy put it in the trash, but I saved it.
Maybe it was in the trash for a reason.
Tony picks up an old film reel in a metal tin.
Cool, a vintage movie.
Tony starts to open the can. Grandma snatches it from them.
Don't look at that.
Why?
It's an old film reel from one of the theaters in the combat zone.
Combat zone?
It's not for kids.
Grandma, I'm basically an adult.
You're not an adult until you're married.
He picks up an ornate shopping bag with another plastic bag inside.
Okay, so what's the story behind this? Is this from the very first boutique in Chinatown? Does it contain a lost artifact from the Tong Wars?
He starts to peek inside.
Oh, that's just garbage. There's a dead mouse in there.
Ah, Grandma.
The radiator clangs again.
Okay, seriously, we need to put something under there.
Tony goes to a pile of books.
How about these nice and flat?
He flips through the pages.
Those are your mom's.
What is it?
You tell me.
I can't read it.
You're majoring in Asian studies and you don't know how to read Chinese?
She takes them.
Kong Kao Chinese School.
Mom went there.
I did too.
I didn't know the school was that old.
Since 1916. When I went there in the 30s, we didn't have books like that. We had 1 or 2 books that everyone had to share. We copied them to study at home. Your mom was so spoiled. She had all the books she wanted, but she didn't want to go to Chinese school.
I begged Mom to let me go to Kwong Kao, but she said it was too far from Quincy.
Your mom never liked Kwong Kao. All she wanted to do was go to the movies after school with her friends. But learning our language is important. Language isn't just communication, it is culture. It's easy here to forget your mother tongue.
The following are a placeholder lyrics for a song that has not been written. The initial idea is that the song will be reminiscent of tunes from a Chinese school chant for children.
When babies are born, they cry. They don't have words. They use the tears in their eyes to tell you they're hungry, to tell you they're sick. And when they grow up, they put words to it. They put words to their needs. They desire with their tongues. Language gives us a place to belong. When I was 2, my mother said, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. A simple exercise learning to count in a language they worried we'd forget about. But I will never lose my country. I will never forget. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, They would sit us down with our calligraphy pens and composition books with those perfect squares so our words are neat and clear. Teach us 大西瓜 or a little birdie that fell into the water. Teachers would slap us when we were bad. We'd run around until we had no more steam and no more games. We'd wait until the bell rang, and we'd walk back home around the corner just in time for dinner. Or we'd walk home ourselves and lurk around the neighborhood, young and free, eating haw candy and pumpkin seeds while Mama played mahjong at Auntie Lim's house and Baba smoked cigars at the Wong Association, singing Yat Yi Sam, Sam Yi Yat Yi Sam Seim Luktat. Language is culture. Language is history. The words you learn are the same words that our ancestors spoke. When we speak, we carry them with us. You can have those.
Really?
Yeah, your mom doesn't want those. That's why her Chinese is terrible.
Thanks, Grandma.
And once you get good enough, you and I can talk about her behind her back.
The wrecking ball swings by again and shakes the building.
Oh my God, what is that?
It's just Ronan,
You named the wrecking ball?
the construction guy.
He's gonna hit you.
He's not going to hit me. It's just a show. Every morning he comes, he does his song and dance, and he leaves.
How long has this been going on? This is super dangerous.
Don't worry about it. Hey, you're not wearing enough clothes. You're going to catch a cold.
No, I'm not. This jacket's really warm.
Grandma examines the jacket and traces her finger on a seam.
This is machine made. It's falling apart.
No, it's not.
Take it off. Wrap yourself in this blanket.
She drapes a blanket over him.
No, it's okay.
Grandma goes to a corner and starts taking off layers of cloth and tubs of junk, revealing an antique sewing station, complete with electric pedal.
Give it to me.
Tony hands her the jacket.
Oh, I didn't even see that there. It looks like an antique.
From the factory.
You stole it?
I didn't steal it. I borrowed it. It was broken anyway until I took it home and fixed it.
Grandma sits down and starts sewing together his coat.
I was a seamstress for over 25 years. I worked all day at the P&L factory in East Boston. And at night, I'd buy my own fabric from Windmill over on Chauncey to make dresses for your mom. They had everything, hundreds of fabrics. It's closed now. The garment district is gone.
We really need to put all that stuff in a museum. It's pretty cool.
No museum. Museums are for the dead, for civilizations that are gone. I'm still here. I'm not leaving.
Mom says that eventually the developers always win. They have all the time in the world.
Do you know Angela Davis?
The activist, Angela Davis?
How many Angela Davises do you know?
She points to a picture on the wall. Young Grandma Wong having dim sum with Angela Davis.
I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I cannot accept. The developers might have all the time in the world, but I don't have to make it easy for them.
Grandma Wong picks up a photo of herself speaking into a broken megaphone.
When P&L shut down in 1985, it left 350 workers without jobs. I was lucky I could speak English and find other work, but most of us were immigrants from Hong Kong. I couldn't just leave, like your mom moving to Quincy. I had to fight. This was my community. I spent my life in the factory as a seamstress working to the bone. I stitched and I sewed 100 women in a row, making clothes that we could never own. Then one day they shut it down, just a notice posted on the door. No compensation, no re-education, and no healthcare anymore. The union didn't have our backs. We paid our dues, we paid our tax. They expected us to take a seat, but we took it to the street. So ladies, let's go march in line, hold up our signs and speak our minds against those who are stomping on our dreams. We're nameless, faceless, and we marched and chanted at the rally. We didn't have anything to lose. It was a milestone. I held the megaphone, and the whole thing made it on the news. And our husbands didn't want us there. Our friends and neighbors didn't care. Shut up, sit down, and don't demand. But we had to take a stand. So ladies, let's go march in line, hold up our signs and speak our minds against those who are stomping on our dreams. We're nameless, faceless hands that stitch while men upstairs are getting rich. No longer silent, we'll go to extremes. We're finally grabbing life by the seams.
Did you win?
Of course we won. They were so scared of us, they set up a workers' assistance center 1 week before the rally. Right after the rally, $350,000 were reallocated to retraining us. It took us 10 months, but we beat them. When they see you as invisible and they treat you like an other, you can show them everything you're made of under your skin. It's not just for my survival, but I did it for your mother. Gotta hand over a better world for your children to live in. My life is a tapestry I made with my memories, so I can't just let them tear it down without having a say. And that's why, Tony, I have to stay. You get it now?
I do.
So always go and march in line, hold up your signs and speak your mind against those who are stomping on your dreams. You're not some faceless paperwork, so fight for rights that you deserve. No longer silent, you must shout and scream. You have to grab your life by the seams.
Grandma Wong finishes fixing the coat and gives it back to Tony. He puts it on.
I know nothing can stay the same forever. I mean, look at you. You've changed so much since you were born, and that's a good thing. I just want to hold on a little longer.
The radiator clangs again.
Well, I guess I can go outside and look for a rock or something.
No. Here, give me that old 9X phone book.
Are you sure? There isn't like some secret story in there?
Of course there is. It contains every business that ever existed in Boston. I have 4 more.
He lifts the radiator and Grandma wedges the book underneath. The clanging stops and a gentle hiss. Tony puts his hand on it.
It's warming up, I think.
The wrecking ball swings by the window one more time, then comes to a screeching halt. Grandma Wong opens the window.
Your shift over?
Another day, another dollar.
Oh, I didn't know you got a raise.
I'll be back for you tomorrow.
Swing that ball all you want, Ronan. You know mine is bigger.
I know, Grandma Wong.
So I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, sorry. I'm here every day until you leave.
And I'm here every day until I die.
She closes the window. Tony gets a phone call.
Okay, yeah, Mom, it's fixed. Okay, I'll be down in a minute. I have to go, Grandma. I wish I could stay and hear more stories.
He puts the Chinese school books in his bag.
Why don't you come back next weekend?
I don't know if Mom will drive me back.
Tell her you can bring some more of her scallion pancakes. I'll give it a try.
Okay.
He spots a Polaroid camera sitting on a shelf.
Wait.
He picks it up. He stands next to Grandma Wong with all of her junk in the background and takes a selfie with her. He fans it a few times and then tacks it to the wall.
For the museum.
He opens the door.
For us.
Lights. End of play.
Wow, 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 wow. That was amazing. Congratulations. I'm clapping on behalf of everybody on the YouTube stream who is going like this in their emojis. Wow, I feel so honored to have been here for this. My heart is so full. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing that with us. As someone who works with new plays for a living, I have to say it seriously never gets old to watch a piece come to life, especially one with this much heart. So I'm going to quickly introduce our viewers to the panelists who will be part of the next segment of our evening. So I'm going to invite our panelists to turn on their cameras and join us. This is a side note that you can read all of their bios on the Company One website, and you can find a link if you look in the video description of the YouTube stream. So you've obviously just met Kit and Melissa, who are longtime collaborators, including on the musical Interstate, which is an Asian American pop rock poetry musical about inclusivity, queer and trans communities, and the open road. They are the recipients of the 2021 Cleveland Prize and have been fellows or residents with the MacDowell Colony, Lincoln Center, Musical Theater Factory, among many others. And they also both have many credits that are personal to them and they do not share across their collaboration. We also have Alison Chu, who is Company One Theater's associate producer for the C1 POW project, as well as the co-founder and executive producer of Chong Stage, which is the first Mandarin bilingual bicultural theater collective nationwide. Christina R. is a produced playwright, actor, and director, and is co-founder of the Asian American Playwrights Collective and was a 2016 Company One Play Lab Fellow. We are honored to have her here. I want to introduce you to Ben Hyers, who is the CEO of Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center. Previously, he was the director of strategic partnerships at the Boston Public Library and was community chair for the Boston Creates Arts and Culture Planning process. And finally, Juyeon Kim, our moderator for this evening, is a professor of English at Harvard University, focusing on Asian American literature and performance. She is the author of the award-winning book, The Racial Mundane, Asian American Performance and the Embodied Everyday. And she is a valued member of Company One Theater's board of directors. Juyeon, I turn this over to you.
Thank you so much for those introductions, Alana. It's always such a pleasure to be a part of anything that Company One is doing. And I'm especially thrilled to be here today to be a part of this conversation about this really exciting collaboration that's been going on between Company One and POW Arts Center. And so since we don't have a ton of time to talk, I just wanted to dive right into the questions. And I thought we would start just by having each of you speak briefly about how you became involved with this project, what drew you to the project, and what was the process like for you? And so, Melissa, why don't we start with you, since this is a bit of a homecoming for you?
Yeah, I feel like, Kit will probably remember exactly how we got involved, but I will say what drew me to this project is I'm from Boston. I grew up in Chinatown. My family is still very involved. You know, my mom works at Midtown Whole Health Service. Like my aunt works at BCNC, and so I grew up in all these places that we mentioned in the play. And I thought it was, for me, it was something that just felt like a project I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to investigate the stories and the history of my community.
And Kit, would you like to elaborate on your collaboration on this particular piece?
Yeah, first of all, hi, Juyeon. It's great to meet you. Thank you so much for moderating this discussion. And thanks, Melissa, for sharing some of your inspirations about writing this piece. I think for both of us, it's a little bit of a homecoming. For Melissa, I know it's a big homecoming piece. And for me, I went to I did my undergraduate outside of Boston. And then my first 2 jobs were at the Suhu Insurance Company on Washington, and then at ACDC afterwards, working in community development. And those experiences certainly inspired this piece. Working in insurance, you talk to a lot of people. A lot of people need insurance for their cars, their businesses, their homes. So talking to a lot of people certainly influenced this. And then working at ACDC, back then, Parcel 24 hadn't been developed yet. And so I worked there during the time when all the planning was still happening. And that was a part of the inspiration for this piece as well, in thinking about land use, development, gentrification, communities, neighborhoods, and blocks.
It definitely felt throughout the piece that you read, right, that sense of really intimate connection that I think both of you are talking about, that this space, and I think that's so important to the story that you're telling. But I know that it was really hard developing this during the pandemic, and so I know that Alison and Christina had to do some of the legwork on the Boston side, right? Because we couldn't really get you here, although fingers crossed we can get you here soon. So Alison, could you talk a little bit about your involvement, how you came into the process, and the work that you had to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, thinking back on this journey, I came a little later than everybody else on this team already. So I hopped on around October in 2020 last year with this project, sort of at a moment of this project pivoting and reimagining ways during the pandemic time, especially a little bit into the pandemic time, when we're a little bit clear about the situation, about the new sort of questions and problems that we're facing for the community and for this group going on their creative journey, and sort of at the moment start to pivot into a way that's safe and prioritizing health, and also at the same time going into community at a safe, protecting everyone distance, and to collect stories and to start somewhere, and to slowly learning about history, learning about who's who, learning about the amazing community leaders. So it's been, thinking back on this journey, it's been 8 months, and there was just so many amazing stories that we had the pleasure to heard. And my collaborator, Christina Chan, on this journey with us, and to really help us shape that process.
Christina, I would love to turn to you next. I think it's such a fascinating project in that it's both so located in a specific site, but it also had to be inherently dispersed because of the pandemic. If you could talk a little bit about your role as a playwright coming into this really interesting process.
Thank you, Ju, for moderating this. My involvement was Alana had asked me if I would be interested in working with Kit and Melissa. And it's interesting how many degrees of separation or not at all these things come to be. I helped Melissa develop her first musical way back. It was called Surviving the Nyan. And that was developed with Theater Offensive. I can't sing, but I called the theater and I said, I knew the artistic director, and I said, I'm interested in this play, but I can't sing. And he said, oh, no problem. So I came on and I just read. I tried singing, and then the director said, Christina, can you go back to the reading? So anyway, my dreams are still living through this, being in a musical, so without singing. So I said yes because of Melissa. And Melissa was also very active in that play development where she played the piano. And it was a wonderful musical. The other reason why I joined was because Chinatown is dear to my heart, because I immigrated from Hong Kong in 1962. Oops, that's my age. And I've lived in Boston all these years. And my parents are still involved with the community. So I hear a lot of the gossip and things that go around, even though I myself don't go into Chinatown as often. But if anytime I need a connection, I call my mother, who can also connect with her mahjong friends. And those mahjong friends all have connections through their siblings, their children, their children's children, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the network goes very, very deep. And so what did I learn during the pandemic? That it was possible to do research on a play without in-person interviews and make it safe, which was so important for us. And that it was, in this digital age, we can pivot and still continue with theater. So I'm so grateful for that.
I think we're all really grateful that all of you managed to make this work despite these conditions and model perhaps how that collaboration can happen in times like this. So Ben, I wanted to turn to you and ask you specifically to speak about the particular relationship that developed between BCNC, Power Arts Center, and Company One. What actually inspired BCNC and Power Arts Center to pursue, or even BCNC to pursue a Power Arts Center, and then to pursue this collaboration with Company One, and what that process was like?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me here. I feel privileged to be here, and also privileged to be the head of Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center. And I think to answer that question, I'll just give a brief overview about who we are. So we've been serving the Chinatown and the greater Boston Asian and immigrant communities for the last 50 years. And as a community-based organization, we've helped serve and support and empower generations, grandparents, kids, and then their kids, as they've, become, part of our community here in Boston. And so we help them, get acclimated, support them as they grow their families, help them as they achieve greater economic stability and success. And we do that through childcare and youth enrichment programs. We do that through adult education and English classes and workforce development. We do that supporting parents, through learning to become parents and social services and case management. And of course, we're very fortunate to have the Power Arts Center and do that work through arts and culture. And so, the reason why, the Power Arts Center came to be and why this was such a great complementary sort of program to all of our other programs is, we think of the health and the wellness of our community in many different spheres. And that also includes kind of using the arts and leveraging the arts to get to this sense of community in other ways, right? I think, childcare plays a specific role, and adult education class plays a specific role, but the arts really in a lot of ways knits together, as I think the play sort of indicated, the history and the culture that is also so important to the community's health and well-being and families' health and well-being and connections between different generations. So it's sort of a no-brainer that working with Company One and working in the arts with other artists as a strategy to strengthen and uplift our community was an important connection to our work. And so I think it's great that we've been, over the last 2 years and beyond, being able to bring theater and people like Kit and Melissa into our space in our community to share the stories that are here in the neighborhood.
Thank you. I just wanted to then kind of open up the conversation a bit to hear about any surprises that you encountered as this work was being developed. And this could take many forms. Any particular challenges that came up? And obviously the pandemic was probably the biggest surprise that came up. But was there anything surprising that you learned going through this process? Were there any obstacles you didn't expect? Were there rewards, either at an institutional level for Power Arts Center or at the individual kind of artistic level for each of you that emerged that you feel the audience might want to know about? And since we're on Zoom, I'm actually just going to call on people. Kit, why don't we start with you this round?
Cool. Let's see, surprising discoveries that came about during this process. I had a lot of fun. I think like maybe I thought, you know, I had more fun than I expected making a piece of theater remotely and with the team and via Zoom but I think that's because we had a great team. So it doesn't really matter the medium you're working in. It's sort of, we had great chemistry, and I felt, you know, we had a lot of fun working on it and creating the story. And also I felt super emotional reading the interviews. Alison and Christina really went out in the community and talked to people and shared that with us and shared the experiences of people's families and people's lives and jobs. And I guess it just never gets old hearing people's stories, seeing people in the community, remembering our histories, remembering where we come from.
Do you want?
Yeah, Ben.
Can I follow up on Kit's comments, because I didn't participate in the creation, so I'm putting my audience hat on with, you know, just getting a chance to experience this amazing piece of work in process. And I think, you know, what I guess surprised me, and I have had a chance to kind of see, I think Company One has created some videos of some of the interviews that Kit and Melissa have done. And so even though like I know some of those people, and you know, they're people who've been in the community a long time, I think I still feel surprised about learning about their stories and the history, right? And, you know, like the play, you know, the fact that there's this artifact in someone's like office or in their, you know, living room, and that there's this story, right? So, you know, I think that's what's, you know, amazing and beautiful about this work and this process. And again, having the arts part of our community like this is that there's so much rich history that is under the surface, you know, at the surface or deep below the surface. And, you know, and quite honestly, it's only really like, you know, through these processes and through the arts that we can kind of get them. And I think for me, as someone who didn't grow up in Chinatown, you know, and many other people, right, this is the only way to kind of surface them and hear them. And so, you know, like all these interviews and the stories that have been brought into the play, you know, are not even just pleasant surprises, but amazing surprises.
Thank you, Alison. I felt like you wanted to jump in there too.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to sort of to add on to the reward that Julian, you were just talking about, and also the sentiment of not growing up in Chinatown, but through this process to be able to learn about everybody, and to find out that everybody knows everybody. One of the most famous thing about this process was we had an interview packet of every word that was being said in those interviews transcribed into a large Google Doc document where everybody can contribute and like spot a grammar and edit. And it's a 100-page document that will like stop your computer for a second when you open it up because it's so big. In that document, there's so many layers of stories, so many perspectives, and so many ways into history, and so many perspectives, especially perspectives from leaders who are in the community, heavy lifting important roles. And to me, I think one of the biggest reward is, you know, first not growing up here in Chinatown, but being an Asian Chinese immigrant myself, to watch how people build a community, how people help each other, and how people lift each other on their shoulders and build a community from the ground. And to be able to hear their history and to feel the mentorship in that, and just it is ultimately, it is so rewarding for me as a person, and I feel always feel so satisfied, and just so it's like I've talked to grandmas and aunties in this process, and they all feel like my family. Yeah.
Thank you.
I also just want to add to that real quick. I know one of the challenges going into it, sort of back to your question about challenges, was just that, you know, we have all these interviews, and I think I think for us, we always said at the beginning, the interviews were really to add like color and research and background to a story that then we would take and make our own and tell our own story. But I think there's definitely in the back of our heads, like, how do we incorporate like this person or this thing or these, and there are actually different groups of folks that we wanted to incorporate that we were having challenges putting in. So we actually talked about, Chinatown is like a tapestry of many different cultures. There's like Vietnamese here, there's like Cambodian here, there's like many different folks that like we don't. So I think the challenge was that like we didn't know necessarily how to insert that in. And again, like this was a first draft. And I think, as we continue to think and develop this piece, like what are those stories like as part of the story that we ended up writing? And I think at the end of the day, we just had to be really, true to ourselves as artists and as people who grew up and experienced Chinatown, and just go with like what we knew. And so that was sort of where we came from and where we ended up. But I think it definitely was a challenge, and it got us thinking.
Christina, would you like to add anything about surprises that you encountered during the process?
Well, I thought I knew Chinatown with my age, but no. And working with Alison, who is several generations younger, I could see things through her eyes, and also with Melissa and Kit's questions, like, what about this? What about that? And it made me start thinking through my memory bank, what do I really know? And it was great to be able to dig into more stuff. Like it's like layers and layers and layers and layers. And I think that the interviews did that. And I have to give Alison lots of credit, because she was the one who took all of our interviews from the Zoom and created a dossier complete with pictures of the interviewees and significant milestones in their lives, like newspaper clippings and stuff, as to bookmark everything. And so it made it easier going through the interviews. And so that we had this whole raw material. And this raw material is what you saw tonight that Kit and Melissa had built out of this. And what was another surprise? I didn't know that there was an oven. Melissa said, that's what it says on the plaque. I'm like, the plaque at Ping An? Oh, really? How did I miss that, right? So yeah, I've been learning more and more stuff. So thank you, team, for, bringing up more of the histories, which is what we always want to do as storytellers. So go team.
I wanted to actually just run with this a bit and pick up on a thread that I heard across the answers, and also actually running through the reading itself. It seems like there's a lot of concern with how do we collect, preserve, distribute stories, right? And so basically sort of questions around the archive. And I thought that is so great. If we could imagine the set for this piece, right? The kind of the mess, the hoarding, where in fact that kind of visually captures, in my mind, actually the work that all of you have been doing in actually, in collecting all of these stories, and trying to figure out like what to do with them. Like, right, each object is so precious, it's so full of memories, and every story, like every line I imagine that you collected, has that same kind of power. And then to go through the process of like then having to reduce it into a play, to condense it for specific songs. I imagine that must have been incredibly challenging, right? That you didn't choose to do something like verbatim theater, where you're just kind of reading these interviews, but really kind of crystallize it, turn it into something else. And so I was just curious about what it means, right? The kind of actually the ethics, as well as the kind of aesthetics of that process of the going from those interviews, from that kind of collecting and preserving of an archive, to then producing something dramatically, to convey it as a set piece or in dialogue or in music. And I have to say, I got like shivers during the musical pieces. So I'd love to just hear your thoughts about that, right? About making that transformation.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was actually Kit who came up with the idea that there's that's a grandma with who is a bit of a hoarder. And I think that's actually a really great vehicle for the story we wanted to tell, because we had that challenge too. We had so much material. We were like, what do we do? What do we do with this? And I think each one telling its own story for me has always said some sort of song cycle, right? So in my mind, I'm like, oh, there's got to be a way for there to be a structure or framework in which we can go into each song that tells individual stories. And of course, we ended up with 2 songs and a third one that's just lyrics right now. But I could see this being stretched out, right, in a larger format of having even more, and each one also building into the story of this main character. So that's how we sort of ended up doing that, and then we pick and chose which thing we want to write a song about. But Kit, I'm sure you can add more to that.
Yeah, let's see. It, like Melissa, like you're saying, Melissa, it was really hard to figure out what to put in here. So in terms of just the process itself, Melissa and I came up with a story, and then we chose a structure, which is kind of like a review song cycle structure. And we decided on the characters, the world, we decided on the location. And then as we just built out the story of Grandma Wong versus Ronan, the crane wrecking ball operator, with Flo and Tony coming in to interrupt with food because it's really cold and she needs to eat. Then we just sort of let that story speak for itself in terms of incorporating all of the stories and voices that we encountered. I will also say part of writing this piece was for us to add some songs to the canon of the American theater that are sung by a grandma who is Asian American, and that was really exciting for us to just be in the world of.
No, I love that. You're right. You're giving the grandma auntie her day on the Broadway stage.
She's the star. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, I in Kit and my work together, it's really important for us to tell intergenerational stories. And I think this is so us to put together, a kid and a grandma together. I think it's just, I mean, it's partially because of how I grew up, I grew up around elderly folks my mom working at Midtown and at Chinese Golden Age Center. And I grew up around my grandma, and now I'm not a kid anymore either. So I can see the community change. I can see other things and want to pass things down to the next generation as well. And so I feel it's really important for us to tell that story and be in the head of an older Chinese lady.
I mean, just on that point, and you may ask us, Juan, about our favorite part, but one of mine was that line, "Not an adult until you're married." So that was a moment of humor, but also, I mean, I think I felt the poignancy of, and I have a 3-year-old now, and I, recently, in the last 3 years, became a parent, right? And honestly, you could be the director of this and, run this, but until you're a parent and you've got your own child, that's the real job, right? And I think in the context of the play, the idea of you're not really an adult until you now are in the position to sort of transfer that history, transfer that culture, right? And have that, that another generation that you're responsible for. So I thought that was a really poignant and funny line in the work.
I'm 37. I still sit at the kids' table.
They always get the best desserts at the kids' table,
though. I would love to hear actually about because this piece actually has so many different parts, right? I would love to hear each of your thoughts, and I know it might be hard, especially in this kind of development phase, but I'd love to hear about your kind of hopes and dreams. I mean, speaking of parenting, hopes and dreams for this project, and really for any part of it, right? The finished play, or the specific songs, or the documents that are archiving the interviews. I really want you to respond. Think of this as expansively as possible, but yeah, what are your hopes and dreams for what might be concrete next steps, or what are kind of the big aspirations?
Guess we'll try to finish the second song. That's the the next step. But also, I think we'll just sit with this moment for a little bit. And yeah, after a table reading like this, we often will just have a debrief and talk about how it felt and talk about the story and what resonated for us and what we want to add or what we want to change. And, we're sort of maybe looking as far ahead as that. Though in terms of my hopes for like a piece like this or anything we kind of make is also when we wrote this piece, and I talked about a little bit when we were talking about adding to the canon of the American theater, is that I guess we did have a little bit of a dream that this piece would add to people's songbooks, to be songs that our communities can sing, for it to just be a piece that people participate in many ways. It sort of has that at its heart center.
I unmuted myself only to add that so much of writing is sitting. so that's exactly what we're going to do after this. We're going to sit on it. We're going to think about it. We're going to mull over. But yeah, everything that Kit said, I think it would be great for folks to be able to start singing this immediately.
Ben, I was wondering if you had any thoughts specifically about collaborations of this type, and even expanding outside of this project, what your hopes might be for the future of projects like this, arts-driven, socially driven projects across different community and arts organizations.
Yeah, I can actually share another collaboration or project that Pal Arts Center and BCNC are part of. There's a collaboration between Northeastern's Archive Center and the Northeastern University's Library and the Boston Public Library, which many people might know is a huge special collections and archive. And, I think what is out there, right, is that we've got our organization, we've got Chinese Historical Society of New England, we've got Chinatown Land Trust, all these amazing organizations that have done so much for the community, that have these, again, these things that are in people's living rooms or their closets. There's more intentional things like recordings of interviews and written down, oral stories. We've had artists come and ask people most recently to sing, a song from their childhood or their culture. And so there's all these things out there, but they're not in one place. And so one of the projects that we're working on now is to sort of survey the landscape, survey individuals, community members, organizations, see what's out there, and then bring that together kind of under one roof. And then what's sort of magical about, contemporary life is that we can digitize all that. We can save it, if you will. We can hold on to it for the future generations, and, make it accessible. So that's a project right now that, there's many different groups from Chinatown that are involved. And I think, things like this musical will have its moment, but we want to have its moment beyond just, a moment in time with one reading or one performance or whatnot. So excited about being able to sort of not save, but to gather those and make them available.
That sounds terrific. So as a last question, I think because we're slowly approaching our time limit for tonight, I was hoping that you could each just share thoughts, and it can really be any kind of thought, on what it was like to be a part of this project over the course, right, of the last year and a half or so. And I could give you a long list of all the things that happened. I mean, we've already talked about the pandemic, but obviously, things I think that weigh heavily on people's minds, the Black Lives Matter movement, the killing of George Floyd and so many others, anti-Asian violence, and the Stop Asian Hate movement. There was a really intense election and an insurrection, attempted insurrection that followed. So in that context, like, what did it mean to do participate in this particular project? And I will go in reverse this time and start with Ben.
I just want to bring up again another favorite piece or part. There was the lines about language is culture, language is history. And, I see this every day, just about how important accessibility and what is embedded in language when, our families and our community members are communicating their home language, transferring that to their, children, etc. But to me, language is really about, again, that community, that creation of that community and the friendships and the connections. Sort of a quick personal story is my wife is Taiwanese, immigrant, and we go to a local farmer's market, and there's a local vendor that has Asian vegetables, and so that's really a great connection for her. But one of the people that works there, speaks, Mandarin, and so they've been able to talk. And then we bring my son, and we talk to this person, and so like suddenly that activity of just kind of going and doing your grocery shopping, and where normally you would just go pick your stuff and leave, is like this whole like community where we talk about like, oh, you can do this with this vegetable, and how's your day going. It's not just a transactional thing. And so that's all through just because of the language and the connection, so just want to lift up like just how important that that language creates culture, that creates that safety net, that creates that space where people feel connected. And again, that goes back to why arts and culture are so important to people's sort of health and wellness and feeling, sort of welcome and belonging. So I'm grateful that this piece sort of lifts that up.
Christina?
Oh, so many things were going through my mind as you were listing all the events of the 18 months, I think it's been. And for me personally, this project made me feel connected again when I was so isolated at home, even though I had my family here, my immediate family, my spouse and my child and his girlfriend. But when the shootings happened in Atlanta, I felt very distraught and feeling very scared to go out, in addition to the virus. There's this virus of hate that was going out there, and it felt like it was spreading. And to speak to all the people who lived in Chinatown, who felt how important Chinatown was to them, how they all spoke about community, family, food, reminded me, connected me, and made me feel okay again. And that was all I wanted from being in this pandemic, was to be okay. So thank you, Chinatown Project.
Alison?
Yeah, I totally want to add on to that, because one of the most visceral memories of this process was, hopping on a Zoom call with a person that you know the name of, is a leader of an organization, and sometimes it's me meeting them for the first time, and I've never met them in person, but be able to grab them through email or private messages and like set up a time with them and sit down with them in the middle of their day. Most often they're zooming in from their offices, and to be able to hear where, and we, in the process, we always encourage for them to bring who they are on the day, who they are on what they're working on, what their goals are, how they're feeling into the room. And so often through that, we were able to hear frustrations and just sort of the energy that they bring to the room, where like a lot of people were, a lot of leaders were responding to the urgency of, I'm thinking today I'm pulling together this poster for information to protect elderlies in the neighborhood, and I need somebody to translate this for me, or to be able to, or to telling us that they're leading a group of teenagers, they're leading a group of youth to this place and that place around the town, and their students were feeling insecure and feeling they're in danger going around and going out, sort of on the backdrop of this, and people be able and to hear people responding to pandemic, and sort of all the emergency like reactions that people have, bringing to the responses to during our interviews, and to watch leaders at work at the moment responding to a community crisis. It was so, I guess, it's shaking my soul, and to an extent, to realize how this backdrop and this moment impact individual lives, and how our leaders are doing what they're doing to help our community. And I think thinking back to that moment, to be able to hear those from with their own words, was really, really a special moment that will really stay with me throughout this project. That it's truly special in that sense.
Kit?
Okay, so a lot happened in the last 18 months. And because when I think about your question, Juyun, I think about, we certainly stand in solidarity with the movement for Black lives, with rights and movements for refugees, we stand in solidarity with folks working against anti-Asian violence, and all of the, of course, the healthcare workers in this time. And throughout all that's been happening, because we were working on this project, the one thing that really has been resonating with me quite a bit is I so appreciate all of the people involved it takes to remember these moments and to do the work it takes to transform this work for our collective liberation. And that includes the people, taking pictures, reporting, and because this process was a bit of documentary theater as well, we're out there doing interviews, and people who work in academia, people who are artists that take those stories and transform them into something with emotional, like songs or plays. And the one thing that has come out of that, in thinking about all of us remembering what it takes to fight in these movements, is that it takes memory. It takes a collective memory. It takes people doing that work. And if we don't remember these things that have happened, we forget and we cease to exist. And so this project coming sort of in terms of thinking alongside the movements that we're living through, it has given me a very deep appreciation for remembering.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you said, Kit. And I think to sort of piggyback and add to that, I think arts has a really important function, I think, in this moment too. And part of it is that you really can't underestimate how much representation, particularly in the arts, is important for our humanity, right, as a people too. And I think that's what we try to do as artists too, is to tell our stories. And it's not even about us, it's beyond us too, right? It's like we'll do as many different stories as we can and tell as many different, aspects and stories and histories of like all these different identities that make up us. We'll tell queer stories, we'll tell like trans stories in Kit's case, and like Asian stories. But it's not just us, right? Other folks have to also, or are creating work that add to, the sort of repertoire of representation that's out there in the arts. And I think that's like super important. And I think once you see yourself there, also like your own humanity is awakened. So I think, yeah, I think it's really important.
Thank you, all of you, for the incredible work that each of you does, in the arts, community work. I think, especially as the pandemic continues and all the struggles continue, it's experiences like this. For those of us who love theater, we're craving these kind of interactions, but it's events like this, I think, like all of you said, bring us together, remind us of the importance of community and just the day-to-day ways that we reinforce solidarities, that are still so important and grows more important every day. So thank you all. I think I will be turning it over now to Alana and Cynthia to close us out.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. What a dynamic conversation and full of heart. Thank you. So, in addition to the thanks I want to give to Kit and Melissa and Christina and Alison and Ben and Julian, I'd like to thank our supporters and especially the audience who joined us tonight and who will join us in the future as they watch this event asynchronously. You are all here as this musical and process took its very first steps. It's an exciting and incredibly special time. I'd like to invite you all to check company1.org for updates on all of our upcoming events, including auditions for our virtual acting class, Professional Development for Actors, and our C1 Fall Kickback, which is an outdoor, family-friendly, in-person hangout in Franklin Park on September 19th. Details to come. Cynthia, what's happening at POW?
Thanks, Alana. I will say we've all experienced a slice of Boston Chinatown through this musical, and you should all come down to Chinatown. We have our Experience Chinatown Festival starting September 9th through September 25th, and you can go online on our website to check it out.
Cynthia, you good? Okay.
I'm keeping it short.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. We care really deeply about your experiences of our programming. So we invite you to check out the brief survey that's linked in the video description. Your reflection on what you saw tonight is extremely helpful to us. And finally, nurturing new work is at the heart of what we do at Company One, centering the voices of living theater makers who bring complex lived experiences and artistry into the world. Similarly, the POW Arts Center uplifts the dynamic work of API artists in Chinatown and beyond. If you believe in the work we are doing, independently and together, I invite you to visit the donation link in the YouTube video description and send some love our way. Your support will benefit both organizations and support us as we continue to collaborate on more projects like this in the future. I also want to make sure you know to go check out Kit and Melissa's own websites, which are full of information about their past projects and upcoming events. So we celebrate you. We celebrate Kit and Melissa, Alison and Christina, Ben, Julian, Cynthia, and all of our viewers. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Good night.